So I normally don't talk about Twitter posts, but there was one that caught my interest. This girl named Yao Pilt Kai puts in quotation marks, "The youth just don't want to work." And she shows a screenshot where she applied for 108 jobs, but only had one interview. This guy, Arthur, or King Arthur T, with the underscores, "I'm sorry to be the one to say this to you, because it appears you're trying, but 108 applications simply isn't a lot in the current job market. You should be doing about 100 per week and expect that it can take upwards of 1,500 applications before you land a job." Now, I'm no mathematician. I had trouble with math when I was in school. But I know that if her number continues to be the way that it is, right, 108 applications for one interview, multiply that by 216 for two interviews, you're looking at 15 interviews after putting in over 1,500 applications. And if she follows King Arthur's advice, right, Arthur, and his amazing expert advice, and she does 100 applications every week, that means, because he's saying that 1,500 is where you would be able to start expecting to get a job. So if she's doing 100 per week, that means that she's going to have to apply for work dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of time every week for almost 4 months before she's able to, according to Arthur, now be expected to land a job, right? Because 100 times 4 is 400, right? 100 a week, so that's a month. And another 400 would be 2 months, that's 800. And then another 400 would be 12, would be 1,200, so that's 3 months. So after 3 months of applying and just having nothing, right? Only during the fourth month, after most of the fourth month of applying dozens and dozens of times every week, can she now expect to start working somewhere? It's insane. It's let's also, we're not even talking about the fact that, do you really expect, when you're out looking for work, that within proximity to you, there are 1,500 open jobs, jobs that are hiring? I'd be surprised if there are even 100. And of course, when you start getting into the thousands, that means that there's a very high probability that the jobs that you start hearing back from or applying to are going to be further away from you, which will mean it'll cost more gas to go out there. It's a real losing fight. But it also is not realistic to expect someone to have to apply for almost a third of a year just to, according to him, have a very higher probability of landing a job. And guess what? Guess what he's gonna do if you apply for 1,500 jobs and don't end up with nothing? Guess what Arthur is going to do? Oh, well, you probably didn't have a good resume. That's how this goes. These people never acknowledge when something is a symptom of a screwed up system. It always is the fault of the person applying for why they're not employed by somebody. They never look at any of the things which are causing that to be so. But what I also found kind of funny is I started to kind of look at the replies, and most people, to their credit, were sensible enough to go, yeah, man, this is crazy. 1,500 applications just to work somewhere, and you think that's normal? This guy called Peaceful Veteran writes, "There are 350 million people living in this country. There are many citizens of other countries that also apply to work in this country. This has been the case for the last 50 years at least. It is normal, and there's nothing wrong with that. When you have no skills and or little to no experience, you should not expect to just walk into a job. You have to provide value to employers." That was his second response comment. Let me explain to you why that's arguably even more disgusting than the guy the Arthur person. So one of the things that garbage job market simps like to do is they try to lie just to make things not sound as bad as it is. And one of the main lies that they tell are these revisions of the past. They want to pretend that things have always been as crappy as they are, in spite of the fact that we have various statistics about how, we have had the largest number of layoffs in 5 years, right? That employers for this year are going to hire 58% less than they did at this same time last year. But it's like, let's take this on surface value and say that things were like this 50 years ago, right? 1975. Do you believe in 1975 that there were people sitting at computers applying for 108 jobs and only getting one interview? No, because computers weren't a thing, 50 years ago. So you would drive around. If someone drove around and went into different businesses that had now hiring signs, because you couldn't just post something on the computer and then ignore, all the people applying for it. You had to actually put up signs to get people to know you were hiring. But do you really believe that if someone in 1975 wanted to work and they applied for 108 positions in person, they would only get one interview? Really? Does anyone honestly believe that? And if you do, give me your address so I can send you where to buy the bridge from me. But this is the kind of stuff where these guys are not interested in ever having any nuanced understanding of a situation. There are 350 million people living in the US. Okay, what does that have to do with someone just wanting to work? There are many citizens of other countries that also apply to work in the US. Okay, again, what does that have to do with someone wanting to work? I mean, two things can coexist. You can have, hundreds of millions of people working. In fact, I would say, if anything, the bigger the population of your country is, the more jobs that should be available, right? Because, you could have more people who need to have different positions filled to accommodate the high number of people that are, trying to use a service. But to pretend that this has been the case for the last 50 years, again, it's just a blatant lie. And when he says when you have no skills and or little to no experience, you should not expect to just walk into a job. You have to provide value to employers. Well, what value can you provide to an employer for a job that doesn't exist? Do you think 50 years ago that people would apply for jobs in person and then just hear nothing back? Oh, it turns out this job doesn't exist. It's only there so that we can scare the people already working for us into submission. Or, oh, this job is actually only here so that we can collect your information when you write down your phone number and your email address and your full name and your date of birth. Again, ghost jobs were not a plentiful thing 50 years ago. And also, just, I want to say this. When you have no skills or little to no experience, you should not expect to just walk into a job. Well, I mean, I guess, but you're kind of assuming a lot there. When we talked about this lady applying for 108 jobs, how many of those are saying that you need experience? How many of those are saying that you need skills? But this is what these guys do. They paint a broad brush over everyone applying for something, and then they just that's how they justify how crappy the job market in their own country is. What's even sadder is that when he mentions, when you have no skills or whatever, it's that's why a lot of people who are going to college and getting degrees and are coming out and seeing how difficult it is to find work, that's another symptom of how garbage the job market is. That people who have skills, who have certificates, still can't find anything, or are actively told that they're overqualified for the very positions that you would think would be lining up to recruit them or to hire them. You have to provide value to the employers. Man, get the hell out of here. Well, what value does McDonald's need? What value does a janitor job need? I applied for a janitor job one time, and they told me that because of the high volume of applicants, I just sat there reading that, feeling like I was in the Twilight Zone. Because why would there be hundreds of people or dozens of people applying for such a crappy position, right? Picking up crap, unless the job market is so bad that people are willing to take anything and everything if it means being able to pay, for their bills. I mean, it's really sad that these people have no conception of what is, and you could say, oh, you're bad for attacking a veteran. Listen, this guy, if he saw a veteran on the streets that had applied for work and gotten turned down 108 times or even more than that, who was starving, who wanted to work but just couldn't find anything, he would let him suffer. He would let him die. He would say, oh, that guy didn't work hard enough. He didn't apply for enough jobs. He didn't have skills. He had no value. Because that's what they do. They despise their fellow Americans so much that anytime one of us is in distress, we don't even have to be like on here, hey, can you guys donate to me? You can just go, hey, it's so hard getting a job. Well, you didn't do something right. There's something wrong with you. It never stops. Because in their backwards, dim-witted worldview, this is how they justify the crappier aspects of their own society. Now, this other guy, Mark, Camney or whatever his last name is, he responded to another post, which was by Fortune, where they said 58% of students who graduated in the past year are still looking for jobs. And he says, if everyone has a degree, then the value of the degree is zero. So if you actually care about facts, right, most Americans do not have degrees. I think it's 62% who don't have a degree, right? So it's like 30-something that do. But you get the idea that what he's writing maybe could be applicable in a world where, 90, 80, or 70, or 100% of Americans had degrees, but we don't. So when only a third of us have them, and they're like still having trouble finding a job, to respond to that by going, well, when everyone has a degree, the value of it means nothing. Complete nonsense. That's why I said, these people are not interested in actually hearing out what is causing there to be so much issue for people in just getting work. And it's funny, we always talk about all these terrorists and the various other people that commit crimes and whatnot, and I'll say this, you can be a law-abiding citizen and still be a bad person. If you can look at the difficulty of people to just find work, to just start working somewhere, and say, oh well, you wasted your time getting a degree. Oh, you have no value. Oh, it's normal for you to have to put in over 100 applications to get an interview. It's like you're no better than any of the other people that hate America, because you literally hate your fellow Americans so much that when one of them is screaming, begging to just work somewhere, you go, oh, to hell with it. Like how much does it cost to just admit, yeah, that's crazy? This guy had to apply for 500 jobs just to get 5 interviews, 1,000 just to get 10 interviews, maybe a job offer. That's nuts. But they'll never say that, because they get so caught up in all of this. People have some fundamental defects, empathy gaps, right? Where no one's asking for you to donate to them. No one's asking for you to really do anything other than just, because you can look at a story like this and say nothing. But if you look at a story like this and reply by going, oh yeah, all the people that are seeking work and are constantly being turned down by jobs that don't exist, or jobs that have 500 people applying for them as well, yeah, that's normal. They should just die. Oh well, too bad. You're not good enough. It's disgusting, man.